our buddy Gus Ramsey, who I have been a friend of for quite some time, who was one of my best producers back in the day at SportsCenter and is now running the Dan Patrick School of Broadcasting at Full Sail University. And I want to, how are you, Gussie? How you doing?
I'm good, Rich. How are you, pal?
I'm good. All right, I'll give you the floor on Seaver, brother. Go for it.
Yeah, so the story I love to tell is it's the summer of '87. I am 20 years old, home from college, and Tom Seaver has retired after finishing up his career at the Red Sox, and an injured knee avoided him from having to pitch against the Mets in Baseball Armageddon in the '86 World Series. But that summer, the Mets pitching staff was in shambles, so they called him and asked him to make a comeback. And it just so happened that he and my dad had been acquaintances from living in Greenwich, Connecticut together, and they were doing a baseball memorabilia deal where my dad advertised in the trades that Seaver would sign. People mailed stuff into the post office boxes. Seaver would come to the house once in a while and sit and sign. Well, one day he shows up with a glove, and he announces, the Mets want me to try to make a comeback, and I need someone to throw to. And my dad was 55 at the time and probably could have handled it, but being a dad, passed it off to his 20-year-old Tom Seaver loving kid. And I said, sure, Mr. Seaver, I'll catch you. So Tom sat there and signed for about an hour, and while he was doing that, I called my good buddy Bill Simmons, who lived in the next town over. I said, hey, Bill, in about an hour, Tom Seaver's going to be pitching to me in my front yard. And before I could hang up the phone, Bill was in my front yard. And we go out front, and Tom starts throwing, and I got my first baseman's glove because it's the biggest glove I had, and he's saying, here comes the fastball, here comes the slider, and all this stuff. And I was sitting there just freaking out because Tom Seaver was my idol. Anybody who grew up a Mets fan in that era, you never asked who's your favorite Met. You asked, other than Tom Seaver, who's your favorite Met. Because everybody's favorite Met was Tom Seaver. So what I took from that experience, I ended up going over to his house 3 more times to catch him over there before he started to go into Shea Stadium and pitch. It gave me a great glimpse into how competitive he was in 2 ways. One, at that point in his career, he started throwing this lollipop curveball, kind of almost like an Ephus pitch. And Simmons is standing there. He's not swinging the bat. He's just giving Tom a strike zone. And after Tom throws a couple of those curveballs, Bill goes, I think I could hit that pitch. And Tom kind of looks at him cockeyed and goes, oh, really? Okay. You dig in and you look for that pitch. And then proceeds to throw a fastball about 10 feet above his head. Just, totally safe, but certainly enough to get the message across. He says, that's what happens when you look for the curveball. And then at the same time that summer, Bill and I were playing a full season, 162 games of micro league baseball. I created the all-time Mets. He had the all-time Red Sox.
Of course Bill did. Yeah.
And it was not a defensive-minded game. Like it only really awarded you for your offensive statistics. So at that point, 1987, Frank Taveras was the most offensively accomplished shortstop the Mets have had. So I'm going through my team to Tom in one of the sessions over at his house, and he says, well, why isn't Harrelson your shortstop? And so I explained the reasons. He goes, no, Harrelson's got to be your shortstop. And, of course, Harrelson was his shortstop.
Right.
And probably helped him win a lot of games. At Tom, it's a different, no. Harrelson has to be your shortstop. Tom, you don't understand. It's a computer. Make Buddy your shortstop. So I made Buddy my shortstop. But he was 41 at the time.
Right.
He ended up going down to Port St. Lucie to pitch a simulated game, and former Met great Barry Lyons went 6 for 6 off of him in that game. And Tom said, all right, that's it, I'm done. But he gave the jersey that he wore in the simulated game to his agent, who gave it to my dad, who gave it to me that year for Christmas. I still have it. It's really hard to describe what that guy meant to Mets fans, because there aren't – how many franchises do you only have one? That is so far above and everybody else. You could say that with Jordan and the Bulls. You can say that probably with Brady and the Patriots. You can't say that about the Yankees. You can't say that about the Cowboys because they've had so many greats. The Mets, we have Tom Seaver. He put us on the map. He carried us for as long as he did. It took him way too freaking long to decide that they were going to put a statue of him out in front of the park. Yep. That's a separate story. But this was a big loss for a lot of people.
Gussie, I knew giving you the floor would be perfect for many, many reasons. You're a diehard Met fan, and my condolences on losing your idol in this regard. And he's a top 10 New York sports athlete, period, all time. What he meant to Mets fans and so many people, and what he meant to the city. And then obviously coming back with the White Sox and Yankee Stadium, having his big moment for 300 and the way he did it. And then just you know, the story, just one more time, Don Bowie, our EP, can you put up that photograph? So you're saying this is your driveway. You are the guy. You're the guy behind home plate wearing the number 2 tank top, and the guy with the bat. The guy with the guy with the bat is Bill Simmons. Like the Bill Simmons is standing there at the plate, and look at that ball just coming right in, and the Seaver with that follow through. Right? I mean that's the typical Seaver follow through. And so Simmons literally talked trash to Seaver after seeing a couple of his off-speed pitches. That literally happened. Is that what you're saying?
And the whole time standing behind Seaver is my dad, and the whole time Seaver is giving my dad this dialogue on the art of pitching and how you pitch to different quadrants. And we saw him again in 2007. I was producing the Hall of Fame inductions. I knew it was going to be my last one, so I had my dad fly in from California, and we went. And there's always a party in Cooperstown in the Hall of Fame the night before the ceremonies. And so there we are. I bring my dad into the Hall of Fame.
Yep, at the Otisaka Hotel, right at that beautiful hotel in Cooperstown.
Yes. Yep. But the party's in the actual Hall of Fame.
Oh.
So we're with Tom Seaver and all these other 60 other living Hall of Famers in the Hall of Fame plaque room. And they're arguing over whose sections are better and whatever. And so we're talking to Tom, and the three of us, my dad and I and Tom, take a picture in front of his plaque. And afterwards, I called my wife, and I said, hey, good news. I got our Christmas album picture this year. Bad news, you and the kids aren't in it.
You're the best, Gussie. Thanks for the call. You take care.
You bet. Great talking to you guys.
Right back at you. That's Gus Ramsey, longtime friend and ESPN producer, and now he runs DP's School of Broadcasting at Full Sail University down there in Central Florida, where the Bucks are amassing quite the team. That's fandom right there, man. That's fandom. Awesome.